Hello, my name is David. I'm an acupuncturist and Qigong Grandmaster in Australia, and I'd like to welcome you to this presentation and the 2023 Tai Chi and Qigong Summit. My presentation today is using Qigong to restore health and overcome an autoimmune disease which I personally experienced quite recently. I'm going to talk about my journey from bit over the last 2 years, from a time where I was in very good health and everything seemed to be very good. I went to my GP as a regular checkup and he asked me to do a blood test. I was feeling a little tired, not overly tired by any stretch, and I'd also started to increase weight and I wasn't quite sure why. I did the blood test and he phoned me. He's a friend of mine, this GP, and he said, I think you need to come in and just have a chat about some of the results we got. And I went in and saw him and he said, look, I'm really concerned about your kidney function. And he said, I can't explain why, but it's a very low reading. And he said, I've made an appointment for you to go and see a specialist. And I thought, oh, okay. He said, I've made it for you for 2 days. And I said, really? Sounds a bit serious. He said, well, I'm not sure what's going on. And from there, I found myself in a whole other world within 2 days. And I thought to myself when I was making this presentation and thinking about it, it was important as a master to tell people that we do become unwell from time to time, that we are human, just like everyone else, and we are influenced by nature and all the seasonal changes that we experience around the world that influence health and life itself. So I went to the hospital and very open-minded, I kept myself in the process of my teachers told me to use the best of every medicine available to create or recreate health. And if you do become unwell, practice lots of Qigong and the outcomes will become more positive and greater long term. So in early December 2021, I went to the hospital in early December. And as I said, I didn't think there was any problems. And the specialist, she was a lovely lady. She came and introduced herself and she said, David, you have one of two choices. And I said, okay. She said, you can stay in this hospital and we can try and make you better. And I said, okay, what's option number 2? She said, well, there's no easy way to tell you this. If you go home today, right now, you will die within 2 to 3 days without question. And that makes you really begin to think, oh, okay, that wasn't what I was expecting. They went on to tell me that I was in acute kidney failure and my kidney function was between 8 and 10%. Not good. That's stage 5 kidney disease. And often in this, they would be thinking of kidney transplants or dialysis. At this point, they didn't offer that. And they said, we suspect that there is something else going on. And they wanted to do a kidney biopsy. And I said, okay, what's the good and bad in all of that? Well, the good thing is we can potentially find out what's going on. And I said, okay, in the worst case scenario, well, you may lose a kidney or you might die. So I said, well, that doesn't sound too good either way. However, I decided to stay in hospital and I found myself in a very unusual circumstance and there were lots of fears and worries about what was going to happen. I was in an environment I knew nothing about. I didn't know any of the doctors or the nursing staff. And here I am with 8 to 10% functionality near death. And it was in that time that they did the biopsy, and they said, for the next minimum 3 to 4 hours after this biopsy, you must lie completely still. No movement. You can't get up and go to the toilet. You have to lie completely still. And that was because when they do the biopsy, they take a sample, 2 samples, one on the surface of the kidney and one slightly deeper in. And then they take that off to the lab and they test it. And they found that I had an antibody, which they named as PLA2R. And that was causing my illness. They said, we have no idea what this illness is. We have no idea why only 1 to 2% of people get it. And we have no cure. So I'm thinking, this is not good, but I'm here and you're going to keep me alive. So that's a positive. At least one thing's going in the right direction at this point. So after doing the biopsy, my body went into all sorts of reactions, and I found that my body put on an extra 30 kilograms of fluid. Now that's about 60, 66 pounds or more of fluid throughout my body. My legs were enormous. My face was huge. I looked like the Michelin Man, if you know what that is. It's huge. And I was very weak. I was completely depleted. And people might sit there saying, well, but you're a practitioner, you have Chinese medical training, you have an understanding, a certain amount of understanding of Western medicine, and you have a lot of knowledge, 25 years experience in clinic. I used to see people with chronic fatigue. That's what I specialised with. And that's true. I do have that knowledge, but I'm also human. And when you're in that situation where someone says, well, you can live or die, a lot of that sort of goes out the window, because you're in this situation of being in shock, fear, worry, concern, as everybody is. It's like, what am I going to do to change this? This is really serious. And you sit there and you look at your whole life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the possibilities of the future, and you think, how can I create change? Fortunately, I started getting to energetic healing and medicine, if you like, when I was 7, at a time when there was no Qigong or Tai Chi. I was learning yoga at that point, Hatha yoga, and I eventually went into Iyengar yoga. But at that point in time, my mother was very concerned because I have dyslexia and very anxious and all sorts of things. But I was teaching yoga when I was 12 under the guidance of my teacher back then. And by the time I was 16, I was really teaching. And that's when I was at school. So working with energetics was not new to me, but Qigong changed my life completely with the master who I had. And he was quite unwell. He's now in his 90s, but he's been in remission from cancer for probably the last 50 years. He does Guoling Qigong, the walking Qigong. He knew Professor Feng Li Da very well, and he was part of the founding members of the World Academic Society of Medical Qigong. And even today, I spoke to him about a month ago. He said, well, I'm still doing the walk, but perhaps not as graciously as I was when I was much younger. And I said, I'm quite sure that you're doing it very graciously. And your chi is just so out there. And, you know, I'm still like a little grasshopper climbing the steps to achieve what you've got. And that's being very polite to him and respecting him, because his knowledge is so good. And it's the same with my teachers in China. Even though they awarded me the title of Grand Master, I still consider myself on the learning curve. There's so much to learn, so much to understand, so much to give people. And I've been very privileged to do that over the last 30 years or so with Qigong especially. It's been a privilege to teach. And as my teachers call me, a pioneer. They said there aren't many people in the West who are home dads and practitioners who teach Qigong. And my teachers in China found it quite strange that I was a home dad as well. And looking after children, but also working in a clinic and teaching Qigong. They thought it was extraordinary. And that's been part of my journey as well, that I had to create health to consider my family. It's not necessarily about how many different sets of Qigong you know. or trying to find someone that says my Qigong's bigger and better than yours, or all those sorts of things. When you find a good teacher and you have a good rapport and you gel with them, something just feels right. Perfecting a meditation or a movement can be a lifelong experience. There are masters I know who only do one particular style of Qigong, nothing else. And that says to me, well, you can learn one thing. You could say to someone, sit with your hands on Dantian, because students always want to know what's the most, I want to get to the advanced levels and let's get to it now. And you think, okay, I'll give you something to sit with. Put your hands on Dantian. Close your eyes and put the tip of the tongue against your top palate and just become aware of your body. That can be the most simple beginner's level Qigong, but it can be the most advanced Qigong as well, because it's about turning your life from being complex to some form of simplicity. And all my teachers say that to me, try and turn your life from being complex and overwhelming to calmness and flow. Connect with the Qi, let it guide you. And that takes time and persistence. Even when I was in the hospital, there were days I was just so weak, I thought, oh, I just can't be bothered. I'm just so tired, I just want to sleep. And then I'm thinking, but I'm sleeping 20 hours a day, at least. And that's not good. That's not going to help. So I would actually have to say to myself, what would you say to your students or as a practitioner in clinic? So I had to put myself in that mode of saying, you're a master, you've trained for a long time, you have the skills and the knowledge, let's just do it, even for 5 minutes. And if you fall asleep, doesn't matter, you've done 5 minutes. And that's my outlook, is to say to people, there's always hope if you acknowledge that you are unwell. And then you take the next step to say, I really want to get better and I'm prepared to change my life. I'm prepared to do anything, particularly when someone says to you, well, you're going to live or die and you've got 3 days to maybe make that decision. You think, I can do this. And I'm not quite ready to go, thank you, Mr. Universe. I want to be here and help people. And that's how I looked at the future, persisting, making myself available to give people my understanding, my knowledge, my training and skills to hopefully help them in some way. I've come across masters who've said, oh, I'm always in good health. I know some masters who are not, and some have passed away. And when I hear that, I think, no, there's a conception, as I said at the start, that people put teachers and masters on pedestals because we try to live a very healthy lifestyle, and all of a sudden you're unwell, so therefore it's not working. No, that's not right. Something in the universe or something in my life's journey or from the universe, however you want to view it, has said, this is what you've got to work with. As often people say, everything we come across is an opportunity to potentially learn something, whether we like it or not. I'm in this situation where I'm now recreating good health. Now, I'm thankful that today the doctors are unable to find my illness. My kidney function is now at 40%. They can't explain exactly how the illness has disappeared. I'm still carrying roughly 3 kilograms, maybe 6 pounds of fluid still in my stomach area mostly. And they've said that will only disappear if the kidney function improves further. And they said, we don't know if that's going to happen. And I said, well, that's the mystery, isn't it? We don't know a lot of things. But I said, I have tools and skills that might actually help. In terms of Chinese medicine, I diagnosed myself with a huge kidney qi and Jing deficiency, and the stomach spleen qi had become extremely weak, which is why there was lots of edema in the body in one sense. and I was extremely tired. My tongue and pulse indicated that as well. And I thought, what can I do to begin recovery? I found myself that I was on prescribed 13 medications in hospital. Up until that point in time, I'd never taken, well, very few medications at any time. Maybe an antibiotic if I had really bad flu once every 5 or 6 years. But apart from that, there was nothing really untoward going on. And when you find yourself, you're on anti-organ rejection medicines, anti-cancer type medicines, diuretics, things for blood pressure, antibiotics and all sorts of other combinations of medicines, you're really thinking, I'm about to start rattling like a pill bottle. And you think, okay, this is part of the healing that is going to help me. But what could I do for 3 to 4 hours minimum lying still? And that's where I started practicing Qigong. Because the doctor came in and she knew I was distressed and she said, just breathe and relax. And it was, you're in that moment where you don't think like that when you're in that situation. You just had a biopsy and you're lying there and you're thinking, I could die here or I'm going to live. And when she came in and said, she just put her hand on me and said, just relax and breathe, you're going to be fine. And that triggered a whole moment in me that said, absolutely. What did you do on the first tour of Qigong to China and Tibet? We learned how to do skin breathing. We learned how to meditate for 5 or 6 hours because there wasn't enough oxygen. And sleeping was almost impossible. You did fall asleep, but you learned how to breathe and be consciously awake while you were sort of sleeping, which is part of sleeping Qigong. And then I thought, the heart master, he taught us to place the right hand on the center of the chest and the left hand with the fleshy part of the thumb going onto the navel. And you can do this sitting down or lying down, and the tip of the tongue resting against the top palate. At that point, I was able to get the buzzer in the hospital bed, and I asked the nurses, can you bring me two more pillows, please? And they sort of looked at me like, what do you want those for? I said, can you pop one under my right elbow and one under my left? Because it's very hard to hold this position when you're lying down. So I thought, I've got to make this easy. So I said, thank you very much. And they went off and did their business. And I went to get onto my business, which was beginning to heal. And I lay there for about 5 hours, my eyes closed, listening to what's going on around me. And I remember with the heart meditation that the imagery was very simple. As the blood flows through the heart, you imagine every cell being young, healthy, smiling, happy. And if you do that for long periods, your body will take on that energy and every cell in your body will change in time. And I knew this because of a past patient who had leukemia and had a full blood transfusion. And they were very concerned about her, and I told her to do this in the hospital. Just imagine your body young and healthy. And from that, her blood changed with blood tests within 3 or 4 days to being quite unhealthy to being very healthy, because the blood they'd given her was reacting with her a little bit. And she was out of hospital within 10 days, which they said was unusual. And today she is still in good health. She's not practicing as much, but she is in good health. And she does, from time to time, when I ring her up and say, hi, have you been good? She practices. So I lay there for 5 hours doing this, imagining my body beginning to relax and the chi beginning to restore. When I was in hospital, I used obviously a lot of Western medicine, and without doubt it saved my life. I'm not aware of herbs and other tinctures that could have potentially worked to this level to save my life. And that's the beauty of Western medicine. It is a medicine that has great skills that can complement many medicines. And I embrace Western medicine as a practitioner, as do my teachers in China and Australia. I also found that when I was extremely weak, how do I replenish myself nutritionally? Hospital food. not the greatest, but I was able to work out from the menus that were presented, oh, banana, okay, I'll have some of that. Nice and rich vitamin B, it does all sorts of good things to the body. And pineapple, they had pineapple juice, crushed pineapple in a small container. And I thought, oh, this is fantastic. Pineapple juice is very good for helping to moisten the mouth. And my mouth was so dry from the medications that nothing was working. The nurses had come in with these little containers of crushed ice in little like pellet form, and they'd say, just crunch on this, this will make your mouth nice and moist. And I'm thinking, well, not for very long, and it's just going to make my spleen even more cold, and you're just going to make me more unwell. I didn't say that to them, but that's what I was thinking. So I had to use my skills and understanding of food as medicine as a practitioner to try and turn it around in a more positive way. And that's what I started to do. I did lots of heart meditation, well, anything up to 7 hours at a time. And nurses and people think I was sleeping, but I was very consciously awake of what was around me. And from that, I was able to then start doing a Qigong massage, and that can be done by physical touch, and also it can be done energetically with the hands above the body, moving around in different areas. That combination was able to create change. So from that, I was able to be in hospital for 3 weeks and then go home completely exhausted. And today, everything has changed. I'm now only on 3 medications, and some of those are, again, to help reduce the fluid in the body. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that, or as people sort of say, oh, but you know, the side effects, what about them? And my attitude to that is, you look at the medicine in a positive way, it'll give you a positive result. If you get caught up with all the side effects, that's what you're going to be thinking about and drawing into the body. This medicine is designed to help me, and that's how I look at it. I expanded my food repertoire to, with my knowledge, of course, to work with what I needed. So when I got home, and I am today, I use a lot of food as medicine. I lost all my balance. I lost all my muscle tone. I couldn't actually stand and do very much Qigong initially, which is why I did lots of heart meditation, lots of sleeping Qigong, because initially in hospital, I was sleeping 20 to 22 hours a day. I'm now sleeping as a normal person, we'll say between 6 and 8, 9 hours a day. And if I get tired, I just say to people, I'm sorry, I'm going away for an hour, and I have my cat nap, as I call it. Some people call it a power nap. And I do sleeping Qigong with the hands like this. I'll sit and breathe. And it can be as simple as just being aware of, when I breathe in, I connect to nature and the universe to bring in healing energy. And when I breathe out, my body relaxes and releases the sickness. And I might do that for 15 minutes. And then the breathing aspect, or my thoughts, change to, when I breathe in, I connect to nature and the universe. And that energy is then being stored at lower dantian. And then as I breathe out, I just say, let the body store and relax the chi. And that's been my healing process up until now. So life changed enormously for me. I had to stop, and have stopped working for now as an acupuncturist, because my immunity is too low to be around too many people. And that's okay, because I've gone very deeply back into teaching Qigong, and that is my aim at the moment, to work more deeply and help people who are very unwell to say, yes, you can use Qigong. You can use food as medicine. If you see people like myself, you can create change. These practices are ancient. They do have benefits. They work in the Qigong hospital. My teachers talk to me about things that have been around for thousands of years. And that knowledge is so invaluable today because many people are disconnected so much from nature. They're on telephones and using apps and all sorts of things continually. And as I taught my children, we all need time away from technology. And my children are 18 and 20, but they still now turn their technology off, pardon me, and they will go into nature and they will not have their technology with them. That is my journey toward my health and recreating my health. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my presentation, and I hope it inspires you to seek out Qigong practices, teachers and masters that can help you anywhere in the world, including myself. I would like to thank everyone for listening, and I look forward to hearing from those interested in making contact with me. I would also like to thank Lama for allowing me to present this information at this beautiful seminar, and I hope everyone enjoys and gets something from what I presented. Thank you very much.